It's for horses, and hippotherapy might be for you. Exploring the benefits and uses of hippotherapy within occupational therapy.
Now, what is hippotherapy? Hippotherapy is a type of therapy that uses the natural movement of a horse to help patients improve their balance, coordination, muscle strength, and body awareness. It provides sensory, motor, and mental stimulation and is often used for people with neurological or developmental challenges. The therapy is guided by an occupational therapist to target specific goals like improving motor function, enhancing sensory processing, and building confidence.
This is our horse model today. His name is Wile E. Coyote, and we're going to be showing you some interventions using him. So some common diagnoses that you might see when working with hippotherapy include multiple sclerosis, stroke, autism, and cerebral palsy. But hippotherapy can be used with many different diagnoses, many different ages, and for many different skills.
As we mentioned before, some interventions we can focus on are balance and coordination, body awareness, emotional regulation, but specifically we want to focus on sensory integration. So some ideas we can do with this is brushing a horse. You can also, just touching the horse is so much sensory stimulation. You could practice writing their ABCs if that's one of their goals we're working on. You could also possibly paint the horse. We saw some videos about painting the horse. That could be really fun. And yeah, do you want to talk about how we brush a horse?
So we have 3 different brushes here. This one is the curry brush, and this is one I was just using. It's a little bit harder. You would do it first on the horse, and you can do circular motions or just like going down. Then this one is the hard brush. It has like stiffer bristles that you would use on like the body of the horse. And this one is a lot softer one, and you could use it on the face and just kind of brush the hair like out of their eyes.
So if you want to work on sequencing with a kid, this would be a good activity to bring in. Okay, which brush do we do first, and kind of working with that. This is the curry brush in action. Look at those circular motions. The kids can work on the amount of pressure they're applying to the horse, all the hair that's coming off the horse, and all the fun. This is the hard brush, where you can also work on similar things, but including range of motioning, strengthening, all. Sophie's a little tall, but a child is shorter, so this is all a lot of upper extremity work that they need to focus on. And
we have a challenge for you. Can you spot all of the sensory components happening right now in this picture?
hey guys, so now we're going to check your answers together and see if your answers compared to what our answers were. The whole reason we did this is just so you guys got a feel
of what a child might feel like when they walk into a room or into the arena and see a horse and all the different sensory stimulations that are hitting them. So, first off, you look at the horse, he's hairy. The hairiness of his belly compared to his mane and his tail are all different coarseness, which is all sensory stimulation into your tactile senses. In addition, a horse's body temperature runs higher than any human's. So when the child touches the horse, it will be warmer. And sometimes what you can do is even get the horse running around a little bit before session. So when you put the child on the horse, it's almost like the heat modalities that we learned about. Another sensory experience that the child is having is the lighting. Obviously, in this clip, we are outside, but we want you guys to think about how it might be when the child goes inside to the arena with bright lights. Another sense that's being stimulated is your auditory senses. Between the horse's neighing, the clucking of their hooves, and the occupational therapist talking to the child, these are all different auditory stimulations that the child is receiving all at once. In addition, when you're in a barn, horses have a smell, dirt has a smell, everything has a smell. So this is all different smells hitting the child all at once from the horse, maybe the barn cats, and even maybe the little mice running around. Although there is no child sitting on the horse, if you imagined one, your proprioceptive senses are being inputted the entire time because your joints are trying to tell your body where it is in space on the horse. It's being challenged the entire time the child is on the horse, in addition to a child's vestibular system, which, when they're looking around in the arena trying to figure out where to go on the horse, their head position is changing, and that is also challenging their vestibular system. Hope you got good answers.
Great job.
So we recorded the horse walking around to demonstrate the movement and 3D gait that a horse has. The sway you see from the horse promotes postural control for clients. Just sitting on the horse while it is walking can promote biofeedback to the brain that helps with postural control. They can also increase the complexity of movements like stabilizing items while seated on the horse or playing catch with a therapist while seated on the horse. These activities allow the client to feel the different movements and work on core stabilization. The woman who owns this horse in the video told us a story about a client she had with cerebral palsy who needed full support to stay seated in his wheelchair. With some time working on the horse, he was able to stay seated independently. This is one of the cool things about hippotherapy. In her story, she mentioned that the horse was a huge motivator for the child to increase his postural stability.
So another intervention that we can work on is neuromuscular reeducation. And through this, it can be promoted just by the child sitting on the horse, because you're improving their motor coordination, balance, and muscle tone by just sitting on the horse and feeling the movement of the gait of that horse. These sensations help create stronger pathways to the brain from the muscles being used by all the muscles you're doing sitting on the horse and trying to stay on. So this can just be promoted by walking around on top of the horse, or even playing games on the horse. So you could play a catching game back and forth with the child on the horse and you're catching it, or having them reach to the ears and reach down to the legs.
benefit to hippotherapy is that the movement of the horse encourages posture and balance. So while a kid is riding on the horse, they're able to feel the movement of the horse's legs moving and the hips moving, which happens to gets a really great full motion of the pelvis. So when horses walk, they move with one side at a time. So they move their front and their rear leg on one side and then on the other side. So as they're stepping forward, their hips are tilting laterally and flexing or rotating their spine, and they're stepping forward so their hips are dropping, so that moves the pelvis of the rider. You get the lateral tilt to both sides. You also get a posterior and an anterior tilt, as well as some spine rotation. So a horse's movement is also very predictable and rhythmic, which is comforting for the rider and can help them relax those muscles. And then they get the stretching of the muscles. They also have to use their core to keep themselves balanced. And so that's a really great experience for the rider. The horse's movement also replicates gait in a human, so it helps build those muscles in a slightly easier and sometimes more enjoyable way for a child.
Oh, I know. Cognitively, cognition is worked on a lot. I mean, at any time when you're in a barn, just because you're having the child, while they're on top of a horse, stay focused on what you're working on, whether it's a game, just being on a horse, or anything of the sort. I don't have any. You can work on attention, focus, problem solving, judgment, safety awareness, and social engagement of just you, the kid and the horse, or the kid and the trainer, or the kid and the occupational therapist. Cognition is very, very big in hippotherapy.
So the horse facilitates a very multimodal sensory environment. Even just being in here in the barn, you have a lot of different smells that you're doing, a lot of different movements from the horse. Even when you're on the horse, the movement facilitates proprioception for you, so you get those neural pathways working and better proprioception to your brain, body awareness. There's lots of different parts to see, like you can learn about the different parts of the horse, different parts of the hooves, all the different aspects that combine together for each of your 5 senses.
So hippotherapy can also be used to work on emotional regulation with a child. It's super beneficial because you have to build trust between the horse and the rider. For a small child, a horse is a large animal, so they can seem a little bit intimidating. So you can work with kids on emotional regulation and interacting with animals. So this can work on the child's confidence and their self-esteem. Horses are non-judgmental, so that can help relax the child, especially if they struggle with social interaction. And if a child has a bond with a horse, then you can bring other people in and work on those skills with the support of the horse there. Additionally, horses are naturally herd animals, so they feed off of the emotions of the people around them. They're super intuitive. They know how the rider is feeling, and they react to that. Typically therapy horses are super calm and they're not going to have big reactions, but they kind of just interact with the emotions of the child and help calm them down. Right.
So there's a lot of social skills that are involved with working with horses. There's interactions between the horse, the people walking it with the leads, and then the client being on the horse, and all those dynamics working together. There are also ways that you can use social skills while you're on the horse. As a client, you can tell the horse to stop and go. And there's even communication kits that can be put on the horse to help a child improve their social skills.
now we're going to go over the certification steps to actually to be able to practice hippotherapy as an OT. So there are 2 different levels of certification. There's AHCB, which is the American Hippotherapy Certification Board for entry level, and HPCS, which is the Hippotherapy Clinical Specialist, to be considered an expert in the field. You can receive the certification from the American Hippotherapy Certification Board, which offers exams for both certifications. To get the AHCB certification, you need to have a valid occupational therapy or occupational therapy assistance license. You need to have 1 full year of practice as a licensed therapist. You need to have 25 hours of one-on-one hippotherapy treatment, and you need to take the AHA Hippotherapy Treatment Principles Part 1 and 2. There are courses and different things that you can take to actually understand what's going to be on the test and what's going to be asked of you. You also obviously have to be comfortable working with horses, and it's recommended that you at least know how to trot on a horse. So if that's, oh, he just licked my hand. So yeah, to receive the HPCS certification and become a clinical specialist, there are a few differences. You have to reach the level of a licensed occupational therapist an occupational therapy assistant cannot get the certification. You also need to have 3 years of licensed practice underneath your belt instead of just 1. You also must have 100 hours of one-to-one hippotherapy treatment instead of 25. You also need to complete both treatment principles of AHA. And finally, you need to be experienced and comfortable to actually work with the horses, and you need to be able to walk, trot, canter, and do everything for the horse to be able to get this certification. And this certification is just a lot more intensive than that.
Okay, I know you're asking, how is OT promoted through all of this? Well, hippotherapy is justified in the scope of practice because it promotes participation in meaningful occupations. Riding horses may be the occupation itself, or it may be interventions to support occupations. Hippotherapy can be considered a neuromotor sensory integration, postural control, and balance intervention. These are all interventions that fall under the scope of OT practice. Hippotherapy is also an evidence-based intervention, which is an important factor for occupational therapy treatment outlined in the scope of practice.
Hippotherapy is justified through the OTPF in the environmental factors, including the horse. The support and relationships can include people or animals that provide practical, physical, or emotional support, nurturing, protection, assistance, and connections to other people in the home, workplace, at school, or at play, or in all other aspects of daily life. Having the child be on the horse sends 1,500 to 2,500 neuromotor inputs into the patient's brain. This allows the child to receive physical input that strengthens and supports the function of the client. This tasks the client to be neuromuscularly challenged. It challenges their body and works on interventions that help support this function. After 15 to 20 minutes on the horse, the OT can take the child off the horse to focus on ADLs, IADLs, or occupations that are important for the child's well-being.
Everybody say thank you, Wiley.